So let's start here. How's it going in LA right now?
I can't complain. I think New York has been kind of the epicenter so far, and I feel lucky enough to be able to do some of my job from home. And I'm trying to get outside. The weather's nice here at least, and you can walk around in your neighborhood, so that's nice. Yeah, I just feel concerned for people who are having friends and family and people close to them be affected by the disease. So I personally feel okay, and my family's safe right now, but man, it's scary. It seems like it's going to get a little worse before it gets better, but hopefully it goes away soon.
It's funny just watching this film last night, and I want to talk about this in a second. But the film in some ways, tells the story of your own father. And I know your father's still around. Have you been by to check up on him?
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the people I'm most concerned about because he's older and he has pre-existing conditions. And I went over to his place last weekend and brought over some hand sanitizer, which is in short supply all over the world. And we had a conversation from a 15-foot difference. So basically, I plan to go this weekend. He lives not too far from me, which is nice. And I haven't been able to see him a lot. I think it's actually safer to, you know, actually be isolated as much as we can. But we're gonna talk from a safe distance. So it's tough out there, man. It's tough.
It really is. I want to talk about this film. First off, there was a tweet that really struck me that you made recently. This film, Tigertail, which you can kind of see in the background of your house there, you dedicated it to, especially to Asian Americans who are facing an unprecedented time in our history. Can you tell me more about that?
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess I should have said instead of unprecedented. It's been a while since we've seen this level of racism. I think that's what I meant by that, because obviously, if you go back to the 40s, 50s, et cetera, Japanese internment, we saw some pretty overt actions by the government. But um, it's just been sadly kind of surprising to me, and maybe I've been naive, and maybe I thought that we've made a lot of progress when in fact that racism had always been latent and been kind of waiting to rear its ugly head. So yeah, this COVID stuff, the Corona stuff, has really brought out an ugly side of anti-Asian sentiment in this country, and it's been frankly disappointing. As I said, you think you've made strides, you think that what we saw, the attitudes we've seen in the past in this country have subsided, but it's people I know. It's not just stories on the news. The star of this film, Tai Ma, was accosted in a parking lot, and someone spat at him and told him to go back into quarantine. And it's like, that's down the street from us. That's in Pasadena. That's not. We're not even talking about part of the country that you wouldn't expect that to happen. And it's just it's just disappointing and surprising, and maybe I was naive, but we've just got to get awareness out there. We've got to make sure that people understand that the disease doesn't discriminate. The disease affects all of us. The disease is raging rampant in Europe. It's raging all over this country. It's not an Asian disease. It affects all human beings, and we need to respond in that way.
What a beautiful salve! Like what a beautiful gift your film was last night when I watched it, to be able to just take an hour and a half and kind of be a part of someone's story and in some ways be away from my own. Like it was such a gift. Can you tell me more about it? Because I know it's in some ways the story of your father, but I don't want to. I don't want to trivialize it here, but it is in some ways the story of your father leaving Taiwan and coming to the U.S., right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's inspired by that story, and I want to stress that it's very loosely inspired. It's not a documentary. It's not a one to one. There are characters who are created. There's the story is a movie. The story is cinematic and has some scope to it, and has a beauty all its own, separate from that story. But emotionally, I was very moved by my father's own story and learning more about him, and finding out more about his past. And that was tied into my own personal experience, which is that as a child, I was not in touch with my heritage. I kind of rejected it because I wanted to fit in. I didn't grow up around a lot of Asian people. I wanted to make friends. As a kid, I think it's very natural to want to fit in. So I refused to go to Chinese school. I didn't learn Mandarin. I didn't want to eat Chinese food. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I wanted to be American. And I think that's very natural. But as I got older and I matured and became an adult, you want to find out more about where you came from and your parents and their lives. And so that was all tied in part and parcel with going back to Taiwan with my dad, which I did a few years ago. It was the first time I'd been back since I was 7 years old. To give you an example of how bad an Asian person I was, it was 20 some odd years before I went back. And I learned a lot, and he opened up to me. And it's alluded to in the film a little bit how in the Taiwanese culture, it's not always encouraged to share your emotions and tell your story and be really forthcoming. So it took something like that trip for me to get a little bit more information from my dad, and that started sowing the seeds of this story.
I mean, and you mentioned that about Taiwanese culture. You can also just tell from watching the film that your father is somebody of just great strength and great humility. I I don't like how was he with the idea of like, hey dad, I want to make a movie about you.
He was surprisingly receptive. I think I had laid some groundwork. I talked to him a little bit a few years before that, and we did an episode of Master of None that touched on his story and involves some of the things he went through growing up. So I laid a little groundwork, and then it's kind of opened up to a whole feature film. And he knew, and I've stressed to him again and again. It's heavily fictionalized. What I wanted to get at was I wanted there to be kernels of emotional truth and speak to the experience of the amount of sacrifice immigrants experience when they come to this country, what they're leaving behind, and how it must feel to build a new home, but always have a piece of your old home in your heart, and always have that part of you sort of missing it and sort of being torn in between in your old home and your new home. So I think that's fairly universal. And then on top of that, in this movie, it's not just an immigrant story, if you want to call it that. Obviously there's passion, there's lost love, there's regret, and it's a father-daughter story as well, which I think is very relatable. And really, you don't have to be an Asian person, you don't have to be an immigrant to relate to this story, I don't think.
No, like I said, it was a really beautiful like experience last night for me watching it. Has your father seen it?
So I think I sent him the link literally just now. We were going to do a screening at Netflix for my family because I wanted people to see it on the big screen. This was kind of a pre-Corona plan, and so now
Yeah.
I just sent the link out. I just sent the link out. My mom has seen it. She just texted me that she loved the movie, and so I'm waiting on my dad's response. But it'll honestly probably be today, so I'll let you know.
Is there like a relief? Is there a stress while you wait to hear what he thinks?
Yeah, for sure, because it's important to me, and again, I stress to him that it's a love letter to him, and obviously it's a warts and all portrayal in some ways. Like you want to show the flaws in these characters and you want to show their growth. So it can't be a biography, but it's really a love letter, not just to him but to Taiwan, a country I still don't know that well, but have gotten to know a lot better in the past few years. And I started from nothing, so it's better than nothing. I'm learning a little bit of Mandarin. I can text my parents a little bit of Chinese now, but it's the beginning of a long path for me, I think.
I want to play a clip, and this is not like a it's not like a clip from the film, but it's a clip of something in the film that we found really meaningful. I think this is going to work. Take a listen.
Cool.
是谁偷去了我的心，叫我寂寞独成。
I love this piece of music so much. What are we listening to right now, and how did you find it?
It's an extremely important piece of music for me and for the movie. Music's really important to me because I grew up playing a bunch of different instruments, and I played in a punk rock band, and that was really a seminal part of my life growing up. So I knew I had to find the perfect piece of music. That's the song that plays when young Ping Sui is dancing with young Yuan. It kind of is emblematic of their passion, their love, their vitality when they're young. And so I wanted to find a piece of music that was a mix of East and West. So it emphasized that he had a dream to go to America, that he loved Western pop culture, and at the same time had this sort of female singer singing Mandarin over it. So you have this rock song, you have sort of this mod guitars. And so what I found was I just did an internet deep dive and looked for music from this period in Taiwan, 60s, 70s, that kind of style. And so this artist is named Yasu Yang or Yasu Rong. It's sometimes anglicized as, and it's her in this band called the Telstars Combo. And so it's not on Spotify. It's not on Apple Music. It's not on any of those services. It's very deep in YouTube. And I saw what the name of the record was. I saw the album cover. And so I went on eBay and I bought a used copy of it and got it. So I had the physical copy so I could find the publisher's information, get it to my publishing people and buy the rights. And so that song to me was so important. I put a link to it in the script so that when people read the script, they could play the song as they read the scene. And it's in the trailer. You know, it's the beginning of the trailer. It's basically a perfect encapsulation of the period of his life when he's in Taiwan and he has dreams of going to America, and he'll always remember that song as sort of who he used to be and when he felt the most alive.
I love it. We're going to put a link to it up on our Twitter at CBC
Wonderful.
Radio Q.
I can't
It's a
wait for
beautiful
people to
song. It's a really
discover that
beautiful
song.
film.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
What does it mean for this film to come out now?
It's really meaningful and it's really surprising because you know when we had this release date, no one thought that we'd be in a national lockdown. No one thought that all movie theaters would be closed. We had a theatrical release planned. You know, we were going to be in theaters in New York, LA, San Francisco, and you know we were going to have a premiere. And instead, it's even when we're talking about my family, I would have loved to have seen it with my family, but instead, it's everyone watching alone in their own homes. And I will say. The movie does feature characters who feel alone and who feel isolated and who don't know how to reach out to the people they love. And so if there's a message that people can take away, I think one of them is it's never too late to connect to the people you love. It's never too late to tell people you care about that you love them and that they mean a lot to you. And I think that's really relevant in these times because I think people are feeling isolated. I think people are feeling lonely, and it's a real time. I know you can't be in a room with your family, but you can watch this movie separately and talk to them about it afterwards. And I think it really has a universal theme that's unfortunately especially relevant right now.
Alan, it's a beautiful film. 3 quick ones. We've been asking everybody, what have you been cooking during the pandemic?
I'm cooking more than I've ever cooked in my life. I bought an Instant Pot to pressure cook stuff. We've been cooking obviously Taiwanese food. We've made my girlfriend made beef noodle soup, which is in the movie. So there's a scene where they eat Taiwanese beef noodle soup. So that's been amazing. And we started cooking Mexican food. I grew up in Southern California, and I love Mexican food growing up. But usually you go out to get it because there's so many great options. But we've actually been cooking it just because, well, we're at home and we have groceries, and you're not supposed to leave your house. So we've been cooking up a storm.
What's a skill you've been learning to try and use this time, effectively?
I've been relearning the keyboard. So I learned piano growing up, and I switched to the guitar because I was like, guitar is cooler. I bought myself a Fender Stratocaster when I was 14, and I got excited about that. But I bought a keyboard so I can brush up on my piano. Again, of course, I've been watching more TV than playing, but I'm gonna get into it. I think we got a few more weeks, unfortunately. So maybe. Yeah,
I played piano first too, and then moved to this thing, which was such a big mistake. But then
it's less adaptable, but more unique,
And finally, what do you miss? Like, what are you looking forward to doing first when you can get out again?
One big thing is I love going out to restaurants. I have a lot of friends in the restaurant industry. I'm really concerned about them, first of all, but I can't wait to go out and just see friends, go out to eat, have a nice meal, and I miss sports as well. So I'm a huge basketball fan. I miss going to NBA games. Those are 2 big ones right now, and obviously, of course, seeing my family. So
yeah, and of course, because the season is suspended, the Raptors are still champions.
And you might be champions for 2 years. I went to some of those Raptors games last year. I went up to Toronto. I saw them win, man. It's crazy. It's an incredible team.
It's great. We're gonna continue on. I'm gonna say that. Yeah, we're champions until we're not.
2-year champions. 1 chip, 2 years.
And we still got Kawhi Leonard and everything. Alan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for watching the movie. I really appreciate it.